the shadow of the Appalachian Hills, where mist clings to the riverbanks and fog hides more than it reveals, there's a story that refuses to die. A story about red eyes in the dark, wings that stretch wider than any bird, and a town that was never the same again. This isn't just folklore. This is Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And tonight on the Howl the Hollow, we're diving into the legend of the Mothman. Welcome to the Howl the Hollow, where legends awake, nightmares breathe, and the shadows are never empty. Every week, we step into the unknown, exploring creatures that lurk just beyond the firelight, cursed objects that whisper from the dark, and stories you wish you never heard. Listen closely, because the Howl warns you, and the Hollow is listening. The first sighting came on a chilly November night in 1966. 4 men, gravediggers, were working late outside a small town of Clendenin, West Virginia. They were used to the shadows, but that night the shadows moved. They described it as a man with wings. It lifted from the trees, massive and silent, gliding overhead before disappearing into the darkness. They thought they were seeing things, until 3 nights later, it came back. Two couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry, and Steve and Mary Millette, were driving near the TNT area, an abandoned World War II munitions plant just outside of Point Pleasant. The place was eerie. Crumbling concrete domes, rusting tunnels, and overgrown woods. Then they saw it. A pair of glowing red eyes reflected in their headlights, attached to something taller than a man with folded wings. When they drove away, the creature took flight, chasing them down Route 62 at speeds over 100 miles per hour. It stayed right behind them, gliding effortlessly. No flapping, no sounds, just following. By the time they reached town, they were pale and shaking. The sheriff believed them. He sent patrols back to the TNT area that night, but nothing was found. No tracks, no feathers, just cold, empty woods. Within days, Point Pleasant was in full-blown hysteria. Headlines read, "Couple see man-sized bird, creature, something." Residents began to carry guns. Parents kept their kids indoors. Night after night after night, people reported sightings, strange lights in the sky, car radios cutting out, animals disappearing. Some even described the same exact thing. A figure with glowing red eyes perched on telephone poles watching from the edge of the forest. But the Mothman wasn't the only thing that appeared. So did the Men in Black. Strangers in black suits and old-fashioned cars began visiting witnesses, warning them not to talk about what they'd seen. They spoke in monotone voices. They didn't seem human. Their skin was pale, their movements unnatural. They didn't come with guns or badges. They came with warnings. They told the witnesses what they saw. They told the witnesses that speaking about it could be dangerous. Their voices glitched like broken recordings. Their eyes didn't blink. Time felt missing. And at times, so did the witnesses. Who are they? Government agents? Aliens in disguise? Or something else? Maybe something meant to erase the truth before the witnesses could see it. If they're listening, they already know you're here. And then just as quickly, they vanished. Was the Mothman real? Or were these people caught in something much larger? Something the government didn't want them to see? In 1967, journalist and author John Keel arrived in Point Pleasant to investigate. Keel had uncovered UFO phenomena before, but what he found here was something different entirely. He interviewed dozens of locals, people who'd never met, but described the same creature in astonishing detail. And then the phone calls began. Keel reported receiving strange, mechanical-sounding voices. Sometimes they warned him not to go out, and sometimes they predicted tragedies before they happened. They made a movie based on Keel, and that film is The Mothman Prophecies.
Hello, John Klein.
Who is this?
My name is Indrid Cold.
Unless, of course, you're Gordon Smallwood.
Your father was born in Racine, Wisconsin. He lived in a green house on Monroe Street. You don't remember how your mother looked.
Okay, you got my attention. Where's my watch?
In your shoe. Under the bed. Very good, John. Thank you.
What's my habit?
Chapstick.
You're reading my mind, are you? You're reading my mind.
I have no need to, do I?
What's the third line? Page 51.
A broken smile beneath her whispered wings. Still more proof, John Klein?
What do you look like?
It depends on who's looking.
I want to meet you.
You already have, John. I have seen you afraid. You're frightened right now, aren't you?
Can I ask you something?
Why ask me what you already know, John?
What happened to my wife?
You were there. Mary Cullen cannot be found by looking. You will see her in time.
Now, in November of 1966, 4 young people in a car, an all broken down car, were driving through the local Lover's Lane, an area that was called the TNT area, because during the Second World War, there was a TNT plant there. Actually, it's more complicated than that. They were making parts for atom bombs there, but that's a long, involved story. Anyway, there was an old building in there that they called the power plant. It was a building that housed generators for these TNT factories. And they were driving past this building, and they saw what looked like a very large man, 6 or 7 feet tall, standing next to this power plant. And for some reason, they were all, he scared the death out of it. They were all scared to death. So the boy who was driving hit the accelerator, and they drove out of there at a high speed. And looking back, this thing rose up in the air and followed their car. And they were going over 60 miles an hour on these dirt roads, and this thing was flying right along with them. So they drove straight to the police station. Now you have to realize in small towns, teenagers do not go to the police station voluntarily. But they were so scared, they went to the police and reported this. And the police were so convinced by their behavior that they held a press conference the next day. And reporters from the local newspapers, from Charlotte and other cities around there, came to hear this very bizarre story of this flying man. And the four teenagers gave a very convincing account of it. And the newspapers, at that time, Batman was very popular on television. So the newspapers labeled this creature Mothman. There were over 100 reports of this Mothman. Some of the people who reported seeing this thing were not only adults, they were responsible adults like bankers and local officials, the lady who was sort of the head of the Chamber of Commerce. A lot of people saw this, and in my book, which we already have no copies of, in my book I give a table of some of the 100 reports that we collected. Now, every time I would go back to New York to try to figure out how to make a living, my phone would ring and something new would happen in West Virginia, and I'd have to turn around and go back all the way 800 miles back to West Virginia. And winter came, and there was a lot of snow on the ground. There were no footprints for this Mothman. And some of these people had seen this creature walking around and making strange noises. But it didn't leave footprints in the snow. It didn't leave any physical matter like fecal matter or anything that I could pick up and have analyzed. And all of the descriptions pretty much matched. Except some people said the eyes were blazing red eyes. And most people said they couldn't see the face at all. It would be in the dark, and they would just see this giant figure come bearing down on them, and then they'd see it fly away. Some of the people that I talked to, when I talked to them in depth, it was obvious that they had been in a kind of a trance state when they saw this creature. I mentioned a banker had seen it. Well, what happened to the banker was he heard a noise, and he went out on his front porch, and he stood there for 20 minutes. And his wife was inside watching television. And finally, 20 minutes later, he staggered into the house. And she said he looked like he had seen a ghost. He was pale and shaking. And he didn't realize 20 minutes had passed. And he claimed that during those 20 minutes, during that period when he was outside, this creature was standing on his lawn staring at him. And he couldn't move.
Mrs. Foster, what was the first thing that you saw?
Well, I heard before I saw anything. I was standing right here in my kitchen preparing dinner, and my two boys came out the back door down the steps to get their bicycles. They got down to the bottom of the steps here, and they started screaming. We heard this terrible boom, and my boys looked around and saw the bridge starting to fall. Well, as soon as I heard the sound, I, of course, ran out the back door to see what was wrong with the boys and what the noise was. And as I got out my back door, of course, I could see what was happening, and I stood right here and watched the whole bridge.
What did the bridge look like?
Well, it's like my little boy said. It was just like you would build a bridge out of child's building toys. And then if you just take a stick and just knock the props out from under it, that's the way it went.
Did you see all the trucks and cars falling?
I could see part of them, yes, from where I'm standing. But, of course, where the trees and things are, I couldn't see too much.
Mr. Ellis, when was the first indication you had that everything was all wrong?
Well, I came to myself after, I imagine it was after the truck came to rest on the shore there, on the ground. Someone was trying to get me out. That's all I can remember. See, I was in the sleeper.
Were you asleep at the time the bridge fell?
Yes, sir, I was.
And what was the first thing you realized after the collapse?
I realized someone was either pulling me out of the truck cab or lifting me onto a stretcher or something. Like I was so addled, I was trying to figure out, but I couldn't. I believe they was lifting me onto a stretcher.
What happened to the man who was driving the truck?
He's just across the room here. He has a broken back, and I'm not sure, but maybe one or two or both of his legs broke.
The man who was in the truck with you, have you spoken to him since?
Oh, yes. He keep him under sedation because he has quite a bit of pain. But he comes to, and we talk a little bit occasionally.
Ever have an accident like this or anything like this before?
Not this serious, no. This is the worst I've seen.
It was rush hour on the Silver Bridge, a suspension bridge linking Point Pleasant to Gallipolis, Ohio. Built in the 1920s, it was packed with Christmas shoppers. At 5:04 p.m., one of the bridge's suspension chains snapped. Within seconds, the entire structure collapsed into the icy Ohio River. 46 people would die. That night, however, people swore they saw the Mothman perched on the bridge watching. And when the bridge fell, the sightings suddenly stopped. For many in Point Pleasant, the message was clear. The Mothman wasn't a killer. He was a warning. So what was, or what is, the Mothman? Some say it was a mutated bird, a sandhill crane disoriented by chemical waste near the TNT plant. Others point to mass hysteria, fear feeding on itself, twisting shadows into monsters. But some, just some, believe it was something else. UFO sightings spiked in West Virginia around the same exact time. Reports of lights in the sky, electrical interference, and psychic visions all coincided with the Mothman encounters. And many believe the Mothman isn't tied to any one place or time, but to the catastrophe itself. Witnesses claim to see him before major disasters, Chernobyl, the I-35 bridge collapse, even the Fukushima meltdown. Always watching, always warning. Is he a guardian, or is he an omen? A messenger, or the monster that follows tragedy wherever it goes? Point Pleasant has learned to live with its legend. Every September, thousands gather for the Mothman Festival, a weekend of storytelling, cryptid hunts, and midnight tours of the TNT area. There's even a 12-foot stainless steel statue of the creature, gleaming red eyes and all. The fear has turned into fascination, the curse to culture, but to some, they still whisper that the legend isn't finished. In the woods around the old munitions plant, locals still report strange sounds, a low hum, a shape in the tree line, eyes that glow just a little too bright. Maybe the Mothman isn't gone. Maybe he's waiting, watching, and when the next tragedy comes, maybe he'll be there again. Legends live because they speak something real inside of us, our fear of the unknown, and our fascination with it. Whether the Mothman was a monster, or a myth, or a messenger, his shadow still stretches across the hills of West Virginia and maybe across the world. You've been listening to the Howl the Hollow Horror Podcast. And if you enjoyed tonight's episode, leave us a review and keep your eyes on the sky. You never know what might be watching you back.